Hello there, my name is David Bompard, a Customer Operations Engineer at Cloudera, and this video will cover an important Spark architectural change on HDP3 regarding how to access the Hive catalog. The topics that will be covered are introducing the Spark catalog namespace, what is the Hive Warehouse Connector, Hive Warehouse Connector support, and when to use the Hive Warehouse Connector. In HTTP 3.0 and later, Spark and Hive use independent catalogs for accessing their own tables. This means that a table created by Spark resides in the Spark catalog, while a table created by Hive resides in the Hive catalogs. So if a user uses the Spark API for either read or write, he will be accessing the Spark catalog. While if the same user uses the Hive Warehouse Connector API for either read or write access, he will be connecting to the Hive catalog. So Spark will now use the same database and diagram definition as the Hive metastore. We have a table called CTLGS, which has a direct relationship with DVS and some other tables, right? So Spark has its own space to store the database information manipulated using the Spark API. To easily understand the catalogs concept, let's say that a database fall under the catalog namespace, similar to how tables belong to a database namespace. So tables belong to databases and databases belong to catalogs. Although independent, these tables interoperate and you can see tables in the Hive catalog, but only when using the Hive Warehouse Connector. To visualize this better, connect to your Hive Metastore database backend. In my case, this is a Hive database, which is built on top of MySQL, and list the entries in the CTGLS table. You will find two catalogs now, Spark and Hive, each of them having their own warehouse location on HDFS. What is the Hive Warehouse Connector? The Hive Warehouse Connector is a Spark library or plugin that is launched with the Spark application. It's important to understand how to use the Hive Warehouse Connector to access Hive tables from Spark in HTTP3, as it is required for read and write operations on ACID tables. The Hive Warehouse Connector API is used to access any type of table in the Hive catalog from Spark. When SparkSQL is used, standard Spark APIs access tables in the Spark catalog only. Using the Hive Warehouse Connector, you can export tables from the Spark catalog to Hive and from the Hive catalog to Spark. You can export tables from the Spark catalog to Hive by reading them using the Spark APIs and writing them to the Hive catalog using the Hive Warehouse Connector. The same way, you can export tables from the Hive catalog to Spark by reading them using the Hive Warehouse Connector and writing them back to the Spark catalog using the Spark APIs. Using the Hive Warehouse Connector, you can read and write Apache Spark data frames and streaming data frames to and from Apache Hive. It is also worth mentioning that with Ranger and the Hive Warehouse Connector library, we can control row and column access to data in Hive. Regarding clients and languages, the Hive Warehouse Connector supports clients like the Spark Shell, PySpark, Spark Submit Script, Livy2. The Spark Thrift server is not supported by the Hive Warehouse Connector, but it is still possible to use it to perform operations on the Spark catalog. Regarding the languages, we can use Scala, Java, and Python, while R is currently not supported by the Hive Warehouse Connector, but it is still possible to use R to work on the Spark catalog. Some of the common operations that we can execute using the Hive Warehouse Connector are describing a table, creating a table for ORC formatted data, selecting Hive data and retrieving a data frame, writing a data frame to Hive in batch, executing a Hive update statement, reading table data from Hive, transforming it in Spark, and writing it back to a Hive table, writing a data frame or Spark stream to Hive using Hive streaming. The Hive Warehouse Connector and LLAP service are required for certain tasks, as shown in the following table. This table demonstrates some of the most common supported methods to access Hive from Spark and their requirements. So for better understanding, I'll provide one or two examples here. Metastore.catalog.default is a property which is set in our Hive site XML file. This file is located in our Spark2 configs folder, okay? So if this property is set to Spark and we wanted to access a Hive managed table, which we already know is ACID by default, and we wanted to perform a read operation, then we would require the HiveWarehouseConnector to be configured and the LLAP service as well. If the Metastore catalog default property is set to Spark and we wanted to access a Hive external table to perform a write operation, then we would be requiring the HiveWarehouseConnector, but we don't really need the LLAP service to be on. This is because the HiveWarehouseConnector library internally uses the Hive streaming API and load data Hive commands to write the data. On the other hand, let's imagine that metastore.catalog.default is set to Hive, and we wanted to access a Hive external table to perform either a read or write operation. Then we will not need neither the HiveWarehouseConnector nor the LLAP service enabled. Thanks for watching this video. If you're interested in having more videos like this or still have some doubts on this topic, please join our community connection forums and post your question or ideas. Thanks.